So the JDL in the early and mid 70s didn't stop with their activities, right? So, he's already in Israel. They kill Iris Cohn. They bomb Saul Hurak's office. He links up in Israel with probably at that time, that's like his closest link to the old revisionist Irgun world, which he, idolizes. He links up with this former Irgun leader, Amichai Paglin, who had led like the notorious bombing of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem in 1946. It's kind of what made Irgun a household name in, Great Britain, basically. The bombing of the King David Hotel. This is like a crucial moment in the British decision to go through with partition and the like. Paglin literally rocked a Hitler mustache for a period of time in his life, which I think after that was cool. I'm not saying anything, but look up some pictures of Amichai Paglin.
Maybe he was a Charlie Chaplin fan. But
that look kind of went out pretty quick. After Hitler, Michael Jordan rocked the Hitler stash for a while. Julius Nyerere of Tanzania had a Hitler stash.
There's that guy in Croatia who's definitely
but he's a Nazi. Yeah. I mean, lots of Nazis fucking had Hitler stashes. I'm saying it's a fashion statement to do that post World War II. So I mean, Amichai was, I guess he owned it. I don't know. What's he gonna do? But, he's a guy who stayed true to those, revisionist Irgun terror, fucking getting the job done beliefs. I guess you could say he's an extremist. Even after the establishment of the State of Israel, when a lot of those guys were just like, okay, we have a state and an army now. He took part in the army too. But, after, Israel was created, this guy has a career in manufacturing ovens, I think, kitchen appliances, shit like that. So he's running this factory, and he uses that as a cover to ship arms, right? Smuggle arms to the JDL for Kahane, because I guess you can hide a lot of shit in the components of industrial ovens. I guess whatever, you can do large shipments of things. People don't look at it weirdly. Kahane and Paglin were actually arrested together in 1973 for arms smuggling. And this is when basically Israeli secret services found out that they had been planning, Kahane and Paglin had been planning a series of reprisal attacks for the murder of 11 Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics in 1972. So they had these kind of elaborate plans to bomb Libyan embassies. I think bomb a Libyan embassy in Brussels, and then storm the Libyan embassy in Rome, kill half of the embassy staff, and use the other half as hostages, that kind of thing. And then also carry out a series of bombing attacks in Europe, too, against different Arab targets. And, they had collaborated before, right? I mean, they had done some of the previous bombings that the JDL did in Europe were due to Paglin's ability to smuggle arms to JDL militants. I think I mentioned in the last episode they blew up a ship in Rotterdam, I think, in the harbor. Somewhere in Europe they blew up a ship. And that was Paglin's bomb-making abilities. And this is a good guy to have right on your side. He's a veteran of making bombs. He has combat experience too. So he trained a lot of these JDL cadre to do, a lot of their major activities in the 1970s. That kind of goes back to that. But they also did kind of crazy things in Europe. Like the JDL did an acid attack on some Palestinian activist in Paris. They threw acid in his face. Kind of crazy stuff. I mean, again, the JDL doesn't fuck around. I mean, they kill people, they fucking throw acid in people's faces, they bomb shit. They're very active at this time. Paglin hilariously would become the chief of counterterrorism when the right-wing government, when Likud came to power. Menachem Begin became prime minister in 1977. Begin appoints Paglen to be the counterterrorism expert or chief of counterterrorism.
Hire a terrorist to fight.
I mean, I guess, yeah. He knows the gig, right? Of course, by then, Begin, who had previously said by 77, like he had previously had some positive things to say about Kahane. Begin was one of the few people that Kahane admired.
Also a family friend, right?
They had some sort of connection. I mean, Begin was also Irgun and stuff. But then when Begin comes to power, Kahane criticizes him for, making concessions to the Americans and, I think he said meeting that goy, Jimmy Carter, and, wanting to do like, peace plan stuff with the Arabs or at least being open to it. That was the kind of betrayal. But yeah, so Paglen actually doesn't survive that long after he becomes counterterrorism minister or whatever. He dies in a car accident like a few months after he gets appointed to that position. So, but I mean, he has a definite, he left his mark in the JDL at that point. It's worth mentioning that Kahane, and I think I said this in the last episode, he wasn't the only JDL member to move to Israel. In fact, I think when he left on that plane, he left with a bunch of other people who got, or like his co-defendants. But there were a lot of like lower ranking members. I mean, they were all kind of encouraged to do that. Like, okay, shit gets too hot, move to Israel. But Kahane ran the JDL I mean, it's not surprising that the JDL kind of imploded in a lot of ways. He's not particularly good at running an organization. There's no kind of, he gets criticized a lot that like, guys that go down for, doing a bombing attack or a hijacking or stuff, they don't have adequate legal support. They don't really have particularly much support when they get to Israel, especially a lot of these guys are like street dudes from New York and they end up in like, Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. They have no fucking idea what's going on. They become criminals there. They do all kinds of stuff. He later kind of harnesses some of that, and we'll talk about that. But like, it was a problem that like, he wasn't good at looking out for his people. Like, he gets the Columbos to pay his bail. And, one of the biggest criticisms he gets from people inside of the JDL is that, they're raising shit tons of money. They have all these wealthy financial backers. Like when you look at like some of the people who are giving, like I said, the Haagen-Dazs guy was giving the JDL money. Like they're getting a lot of money, but it's not going, nobody knows where it's going, right? Like at certain points, it seems basically that it's just Kahane's funneling millions of dollars to do whatever he wants to do with it. And then, these guys get left out, fucking with like a, court-appointed lawyer fleeing to Israel with no, money or backing or whatever. And oftentimes with their families too. It's like, not a good look.
If you want access to this full episode along with hundreds of hours of other assorted weirdness, subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/tenetpod and help us out a little bit.